What is up, Knicks fans? Welcome back to yet another episode of Fireside Knicks with your hosts Dylan and Davin. And last night, the New York Knicks had a very nice come-from-behind victory against the Miami Heat, led by Karl Anthony Towns, the guy that we just said in our previous video that needed to show up. He did a little more than that. He showed up and he was everywhere last night. Had his best game as a Knick by far, 44 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists, and 17 of 24 from the floor. 4 or 5 from 3. He was everywhere. He took over from the beginning of the game to the very end of the game. He was doing everything for the Knicks, and it was very impactful to have that too, considering that there were some off nights from Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges. So really pleased with that performance, and we're just going to talk about it because we literally just said the other day that Cat needed to show up, and he did just that. So we're very pleased with that. But Davin, tell me first off how you're doing, and secondly, what did you take away from Cat's performance last night against Miami?
Doing great, Dylan, man. Thank you for asking. Hope you're doing the same. And honestly, just a masterclass in South Beach, highlighted by Karl Anthony Towns from all angles. He was attacking from all angles. He did everything we assumed and wanted him to do. Just a matter of time, it really was, waiting for this team to gel and get it together. 44 points, attempted 6 threes in the first 3 games. He had 5 attempted threes last night. He took 5, made 4 of them, shooting 80%, has the best three-point percentage in the league. Sure, he only has 8 makes, but I don't assume that his three-point percentage will just drop from out of, say, top 10, top 5 range as the season goes on, because the offense he plays in, it allows everyone to kind of be an iso ball if they have to be. Not too many double teams happening, except for being thrown at Brunson, of course. But beyond that, he just goes to work. Yesterday he went to work on Bam Adebayo, had him in foul trouble early in the game. 24 points in the first half. Bam picked up 3 fouls. So it was just a cakewalk from there. Karl Anthony Towns getting to his spot, getting into rhythm, and staying into rhythm. So a real masterclass by the former first overall pick. And I was highlighting it in articles. I was saying that it's really what he's here for. He's not here to be a glorified role player. He's here to play like a number 1 pick, and that's exactly what he's going to be doing. So this will not be the last time we see a performance like this from Karl Anthony
Right,
Towns.
it definitely won't be the last time. If anything, I don't think we should be expecting 44 points performances regularly, but I think we should be expecting, 25 to 27 point per game performances pretty commonly. I think we should expect that on most nights. Of course, there's going to be nights where, such as the Cleveland game, where he doesn't really take a lot of shots. I think we were very concerned about the lack of involvement he had in that game, and quite frankly, there are going to be other games this season where maybe he doesn't take a lot of shots, maybe he's a lot less involved, but either way, I was just very pleased to see him actually get involved. It was clear the Knicks made that a game plan coming into this game against Miami, that it was clear they were like, hey, we need to get our all-star center involved. You have an all-star center on the roster, so get him involved. Get him to do something offensively for you. And that's exactly what he did, because Jalen Brunson didn't have a good night last night. It's been kind of a slow start for Brunson overall at the start of the year. Last night, Brunson was 6 of 18 from the floor, 3 of 7 from 3 with 22 points. It doesn't look terrible on paper, but if you look at it from, the halves, it was a tale of 2 halves for Brunson, right? He scored 18 of those points in the second half. In the first half, he was just really struggling. He went a total of 1 of 7 in the first half, only with 2 points at halftime, or 4 points at halftime, excuse me. And it was just, I was just happy to see Towns actually step up and be that kind of second guy that we wanted, that second all-star. Yes, I know it's early in the season, and we're kind of, already making that conclusion that this is going to be an every game thing. No, obviously, it's not going to, but we know Towns is more than capable of doing this pretty often. He has 2 60-point games in his career. This is a guy who's averaged close to 25 points per game for the majority of his career as well. Several 40-point games, 50-point games, all that stuff. So this is really encouraging to see early, because this team is clearly still trying to figure out some chemistry together, right? Even though they came back last night, came back from down 13 in the third quarter, resilient comeback effort, very great comeback effort. It's clear that they're still building chemistry, right? It's clear that these guys are not exactly completely clicking just yet. I think they're getting there. I think we're starting to see these guys gel a little bit more, but they're definitely not where they want to be, and I think the players would tell you that as well. But the fact that we've seen, the impact that Towns provided last night, as you mentioned, Doffin, everywhere on the court, everywhere. I mean, getting in the low post, hitting a few three-pointers, getting inside the paint. Just absolutely cooking Bam Adebayo, by the way. And I know it's, a somewhat quote-unquote mismatch, because Bam is 6'9", Towns is a 7-footer, so he does have the height advantage. But it is still Bam Adebayo. He's one of the best defensive centers in the NBA, so, I had even said in our previous episode that it was going to be a tough matchup for him. It was going to be a tough matchup for Cat. Even though there is a size difference there, Bam is a great defender. Bam is constantly in Defensive Player of the Year conversations every single year. So it was going to be a tough matchup, and I think Towns really answered the bell. I think he answered it, and I think he really, this was just the performance I wanted. I wanted to see him have an impactful performance, and if anything, this was more than what I would have wanted. I would have wanted, even if he had 30 points and, took like, I don't know, 16 shots, I would have been perfectly happy with that. Yes, that's asking for a lot out of a player, but this is an all-star. I think I should have high expectations for an all-star player. At 44 points, 17 of 24 from the floor, 4 of 5 from 3, and 13 rebounds to go along with it. He just dominated. It's that simple. He dominated. He completely dominated the Heat. Once again, a Knicks big man is torturing the Heat because Julius Randle had tortured the Heat a couple years ago with that 43-point performance followed by a game winner. So once again, front court guys are just dominating the Heat, I guess, and really I'm just happy with the win. I think really it's a good win they needed to have after they blew a 13-point lead to Cleveland the other night. You came back and you kind of just made your own 13-point comeback, ironically enough, because they were down 13 points early in the third quarter. Looked like the Heat were going to start pulling away. They couldn't stop Tyler Hero whatsoever, but Towns was just going crazy, and even in the second half, some of the other guys were picking up the slack. Yes, Towns was still going off in the second half, but Towns basically carried the offense in the first half. He scored basically half of their points in the first half. He had 24 of those 44 in the first half. Knicks finished at the halftime break with 52 points total. And then after that, you saw more from Brunson. You saw more from Bridges. Josh Hart was doing things. OG Anunoby hit a couple big threes as well in the third quarter to ignite that comeback. It's good to see that these guys can, actually pick up some slack, and you don't have to rely on all of them to do something at once, right? You had Towns go off in the first half. Now you had the other guys contribute in the second half, while Towns, of course, was still cooking. So that's always a plus to see. Really was happy with the performance, but I want to get your thoughts, though, next on something that I want to hit on, the three-point shooting, the volume. We talked about that also in our previous episode. Entering the game yesterday, they were averaging the least amount of three-point attempts per game. They only had, I think, less than 30 attempts a night. Last night against Miami, they took 43s and hit 18 of them, nearly half the attempts, which is in a very hyper-efficient clip. I want to get your thoughts on that, though. What did you see from that with the three-point shooting?
No, it was a wonderful performance from beyond the arc. They averaged 41 threes per game in the preseason. So when we saw them coming into the regular season and not living up to that expectation, it was kind of an alarming aspect there. But they're getting chemistry together and things of that nature. But 43-point attempts on 45% for the New York Knicks, and that's kind of just exactly. I really revolved around how Towns was impactful from the beginning. So Towns is taking threes off the jump. First quarter, he had two of them, and from that rain, it was just raining from the team. Everyone knowing this is what the tone is being said as, and it was kind of a performance to watch for the ages because you have an impactful performance from Karl-Anthony Towns versus a high-skilled player like Bam Adebayo. Okay, that's a really good sign for us because this is the Heat are a playoff team, a potential matchup that we may see. So it's like to see that he does this so soon, so early. It's like, all right, well, when we see these type of teams on high skill, we see the Jokic of the league, the Embiids of the league. This guy's not going to back down. And that was a really good performance against a gold medalist now, Bam Adebayo. So it was like, wow, to see that Karl-Anthony Towns can put that together all, and then New York Knicks can form around that. Really, really good feeling I have behind that. So Jalen Brunson, per se, like you said, did have a great game, shooting 33% from the field over 2 games. And the plus of that, though, is the fact that he's averaging 8 assists at the same time. So playmaking Brunson just has a couple of growing pains. It's the only way I see it as. Nothing too much alarming at all. He will be fine. But the Knicks are taking and making threes. That's going to be unstoppable because that's the whole entire thing with these new guys you have on the team. You don't want to create nothing too new. The NBA is a shooter's league, it's a shooting league. There's nothing you want to stray away from that from. So if you can average around 43s a game, I think that's the dot right there that we need to be. And they're shooting at a very high clip. I believe top 3 in the league as a team for three-point percentage. So it's like, hey, if they're shooting them, just let it rain. Let it happen.
Right, and I even said last night watching the game, I said, look what look at that. They're shooting threes, and look what happened. They ended up winning the game and making a comeback effort. I understand there's probably some people out there that like the old school style of ball, more inside games, more physicality, and that's always a plus to have. But this is 2024, guys. Every team pretty much at this point can shoot, right? So you have to be a good shooting team. The Knicks have been a phenomenal shooting team efficiency-wise to start the year. That was never the problem. We were never worried about them missing their threes or anything like that. Even though they were a little cold in the first half last night, I was not exactly worried about them missing too many threes in games or any of that. No, they weren't taking enough. if you take enough threes and you miss them, you miss them. It happens. I'd rather you shoot this kind of volume, 43s in this game. I'd rather you shoot that amount than stray away from that. Because if we saw what Miami did last night, they also took 43 pointers and hit 17 of them. They were very efficient too. But look, because we were able to really get it going in the second half while also being efficient from the floor because they were nearly 50% from the field as well. That's how you win games, guys. It's how you win games. You have to be a dynamic offense, but you have to be a good shooting team. Tyler Hero had 34 points and hit 8 3-pointers last night. And for a while, it looked like that was going to be enough for Miami to win. It did. They were up 13 points early in the third quarter. They were really starting to pull away. The Knicks were really slumping it right there at the start of that period. But luckily, the dark magic that has clouded the Heat for the third quarter to start the year continued for them. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the third quarter devil magic or the third quarter now, I guess we're going to call it for them, because the Knicks have had really bad third quarters in the past, I think, as we all know very well. So, we only have so much to say about that one. But regardless, the point I'm trying to make is that you win more games by shooting more threes. And it sounds dumb to some of the people that like the old school stuff, but look at the Golden State Warriors and how they were so successful because they were shooting threes. Look at the other teams that have won the championship in recent years. Look at the Boston Celtics last year. Great three-point shooting team, dominated the NBA Finals, won the championship, dominated the playoffs entirely. And you saw what Boston did to us on opening night. If you shoot the ball like that, you're not gonna lose. You're not. And I'm not saying the Knicks are going to win every single game, nor are the Celtics, because the Celtics literally lost last night to Indiana. So it's obviously not going to always be a perfect formula, but it's a very successful formula, and there's proof behind it. There are other teams that have been very successful shooting the ball and have gone very far in playoffs and gone very far in the regular season, and the Knicks can do the exact same thing. Yes, it's early, and I know we've been projecting a lot lately, but it's kind of what you got to do because as long as these guys, continue to stay healthy and they play like how they played last night, because I don't even think we've seen the Knicks in their peak form yet. I thought maybe we saw close to it against Indiana, but even at the same time, I don't think we did either because all those guys were kind of just evenly spreading out the scoring. Not only did we see 6 guys in double figures last night for the Knicks, but we saw a guy eclipse 40 points. That's what I want. That is what I want. I want everybody to contribute evenly. Yes, I like that. I like seeing some balance. I like seeing everyone get involved. But I also want to see our best players go off. I want to see Brunson have 30 or 40 points. I want to see Towns have 30 or 40 points like he did last night. I want to see that because when they are doing that, it's going to be so tough to beat this team because we traded for Towns for that reason. To have another all-star, all NBA level player alongside Brunson that doesn't always require the ball. And I know we had one in Julius Randle, and I've been the biggest Julius Randle defender. So, for me, even this is kind of a change of heart in my eyes because for a while I was always against getting Cat. But seeing what Cat did last night, if we can get that more often than not, then the sky is the limit for this team. We already know what they're capable of defensively. We know what they're capable of as a unit offensively as well. So I think really we saw easily the best game that they've played all season last night. I mean, the Indiana game was a really good game. I'm not taking that away. But I think this one kind of eclipses that just because of the big performance from Towns, of course, but also the overall efficiency, the comeback effort, the way the defense shored up in the second half. Because, yes, the defense was rough in the first half. I'm not going to lie. It was bad. It was pretty bad. But it really shored up in the second half, and that's how they were able to outscore them by 13 in that third quarter. So that's really what I got to say about that. I want to get your final thoughts on some of this stuff that I just said before we wrap the episode up.
Oh yeah, wonderful, man. Yeah, the Knicks can be dangerous with this level of Karl-Anthony Towns. Honestly, I think 20 to 25 shots from an impactful player like Karl-Anthony Towns is exactly what the Knicks should be looking for. Jalen Brunson, I would think his points per game might take a dip this season just for the simple fact that this magnitude of player that Karl-Anthony Towns is, what he demands, I believe 25 shots tonight is exactly what we're looking at because it raises the Knicks ceiling higher than I believe if Brunson is taking us 25 shots per night because it just comes to shot quality, things like that, and more around the rim, around the basket like that from Towns. And those are buckets that we'd be looking forward to. So this upcoming trip we have Detroit, we have Houston, we have Atlanta, 6-2 last season against those teams upcoming. And it's Bridges 18 points per game. I think we're going to get these guys even better chemistry with this upcoming road trip before we get back home. Because we get back home, we have the Milwaukee Bucks waiting on us. So it's like, kind of get a little out the rust out of the way, get the chemistry up, and we'll be looking good by the time we get back
Yeah,
home.
these are the games that you really want to kind of get right a little bit. Like, I hate using the term "get right" this early in the year, but at the same time, we don't want to see them get off to a slow start. We want to see the Knicks kick into high gear right away. And I think last night was really the time
Exactly.
where I think we can really see the full potential of this team. We saw guys score at an even balance. Yes, there was a lot of inefficient marks. Mikal Bridges was obviously under 40%. Jalen Brunson was obviously under 40%. But I think that's the good part of it. I saw a tweet from New York Basketball. He tweeted this, so I'm going to quote it here. He said, if your biggest problem is Jalen Brunson, then you don't have a problem. And he's right. If he's your biggest problem, you don't have an issue right now. Because we know Jalen Brunson's going to turn around. I even said it in our last episode that Jalen Brunson kind of has this tendency to get off to slow starts anyway, so I'm not worried about him. We saw Brunson have good games in the preseason. We've even seen a pretty good game from him already this year. So I'm not too worried about him whatsoever, because once he gets going, and if Towns can play like this or close to this, obviously on a more consistent level, this team is dangerous, as you just said. This team is dangerous. This team is going to be very tough to beat. Maybe I'm not gonna sit here and say they're gonna end up being better than Boston, because Boston just won the championship and they obviously smacked us on opening night straight up. So there's obviously a lot of work to be done in that regard. But when they get healthy, when the guys start clicking, this team is right there with them. They are on paper. They're right there. I want to see, of course, how it will play out when they play against each other again, which is way later on into the season. But I was just very happy with what I saw last night against a good Eastern Conference team. The Miami Heat are not a bad team. I don't think the Heat are as good as some people may make them sound, but I don't think they're bad either. They are a play-in team / fringe playoff team. They can sneak into the playoffs as a 6th seed. They can either be the 8th seed again and falter. Who knows? But they're not a bad team, and they have talented players. So very happy from what I saw from Towns and really the whole team last night. I know this episode is primarily about Karl-Anthony Towns and his wonderful performance, but the entire team did a good job in the comeback effort, because it isn't just Towns. Like, yes, Towns carried, but the rest of the guys really made some key contributions late. So that's really all I got to say about it. So I do think this is a good place to wrap it up. I really hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Let us know what you got to say about Karl-Anthony Towns' performance, as well as the team's performance, in the comments section below, because we would love to hear about it. There's a lot to talk about with that. You can follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, of course, this YouTube page that you are watching the video on. You can follow our personal Twitter accounts. They are above our heads. And we will see you guys in the next episode of Fireside Knicks. Peace out.